Her name was Sam, and she was the only living thing on Mars. The crew left on day 41. The storm came in faster than anyone predicted. The launch window was closing, and when the dust cleared, they were already gone. They thought she was dead. She had watched the ship burn upward through the orange sky, and she had not been able to tell them otherwise because the radio mast had snapped in the wind and taken the antenna with it. So there was no call. There was no message. There was just a woman in a suit standing in the quiet, watching the sky go still. She walked back to the habitat. It was cracked, and it would never fly, but it held pressure, and it was warm, and it was the only warm place on the planet. That first night, she did the only useful thing she could think of. She counted the food. It took her 2 hours, and when she was finished, she sat on the floor and did the math, and the math gave her a number. 311 days. That was it. That was the whole future. 311 days, and then nothing. The next mission was scheduled to land in 4 years. For a while, she did nothing at all. That's the part people never put in the stories, but it's true. For 8 days she slept, and ate less than she should have, and stared at the ceiling. On the 9th day she got up because there was a box in the science bay she had been trying not to think about. It was small, gray, about the size of a shoebox. It was labeled Growth Trial. Set C inside were seeds, potatoes, beans, and a few hundred grains of dwarf wheat. They weren't food, they were an experiment. Somebody back on Earth wanted to know how roots behaved in low gravity. Nobody had ever intended for a person to eat them. She held the box for a long time. Then she started work. The first problem was water, and Mars had already solved it. She just had to go and get it. Under the dust, not far down, the ground was frozen. Not a lake. Not ice you could see. Just cold dirt with ice locked inside it, the way a sponge holds water. So she dug. She hauled it inside in buckets. She built a box out of a broken equipment crate, put a heater in it, and let the ice come out as steam. Then she cooled the steam, and the steam became water, and the water went into a tank. It was slow. It was ugly. It worked. The second problem was the dirt itself, and this one nearly stopped her. Mars dirt is not soil. It's crushed rock and mixed. Into it is a kind of salt that would poison anything that tried to grow. It's the reason the whole planet is empty. Not the cold, not the thin air. The ground itself is hostile to life. But salt dissolves. That's all salt does. So she washed it. Bucket by bucket, she poured her own water through Martian dirt and let it run out the bottom and threw the runoff away, and did it again and again and again. It took weeks. Her hands shook at night. And the third problem turned out not to be a problem at all. And this was the strange gift of it. Plants need carbon dioxide. It's what they breathe. The air on Mars, the air that would kill her in seconds, is almost entirely carbon dioxide. The exact thing that made the planet impossible for her made it perfect for them. She sealed off the science bay. She ran a line from outside and let the Martian air bleed in, warmed and pressurized, and she made a room that would kill any human being and keep a garden alive. Then she planted the seeds, and she waited. Nothing happened for 11 days. On the 12th, there was a sprout. One, about the size of her fingernail, pale green, bent like a question mark. She sat down on the floor of that room in her suit, and she cried until her visor fogged, and she couldn't see it any more. It was the first new living thing on Mars in the history of the planet. After that, life had a shape. Mornings, she cleaned the dust off the solar panels, every day without fail, because dust is what kills you here. Afternoons, she hauled ice. Evenings, she worked the garden. She talked out loud the whole time, to the plants, to herself, to the crew that thought she was dead. The beans came up first, then the potatoes, thick and stubborn and ugly. The wheat was last, and it was pitiful, thin as hair. But it was there. She recalculated her number. 311 days became 400. Then 600. Then she stopped counting, because the number had started to move in the right direction, and that was enough. Then, in her second year, the sky went out. The storm rose in the west, and it did not stop rising. Within a week it had wrapped the whole planet. The sun turned into a smear of dim orange, then into nothing. Her panels went dark. Her batteries began to fall. She had power for one heated room, not two. She stood between the two doors for a long time, the habitat where she slept and the garden where everything she had built was quietly getting colder. And she thought about the number, not the food number, the other one, the years until the next ship. Then she shut off the heat in her own room, put on every layer she owned, and moved her sleeping bag onto the garden floor. She lived there for 6 weeks in the dark next to her, plants, breathing bottled air, shaking, waking every few hours to check a thermometer. She lost 40% of the garden. She kept 60. And when the sky finally cleared, and the first weak sunlight came through the dust and hit the panels, she went outside and stood in it with her arms out, like a person standing in rain. 4 years is a long time, but it is not forever. The next mission came down out of a clean, pink sky on a morning she had marked on a wall 2 years earlier. She watched the ship land from a ridge a kilometer away because she wanted to see it from the outside, the way you'd want to see it in a story. They came looking for a wreck. They came looking for a body. What they found was a hab with the lights on, and behind a sealed door, in a room full of Martian air, 40 square meters of green. Nobody had known she was alive. Nobody had come for her. Not one person in the universe had been able to help. She had done all of it alone, with a broken ship, a shoebox of seeds meant for someone else's experiment, and the only planet in the solar system that will freely give you everything a plant needs, and nothing a person does. They asked her, later, how she kept going through the dark weeks, what she told herself. She said she didn't tell herself anything. She said she just got up every morning and went and cleaned the dust off the panels, and the plants were still alive in the morning. So she did it again.